Okay, this is lesson 46, Algebra 2, and we're talking about more rational fractions and exponents. Well, let's just dig right into it. Negative 2 square root of 2 over 3 plus 3 square root of 3 over 2. First thing we do is we want to separate them. Negative square root of 2 over square root of 3 plus 3 square root of 3 over square root of 2. Then you want to rationalize the denominator. Okay. Then we get negative square root of 6 over 3 plus 3 square root of 6 over 2. Then we got to get a common denominator, which is 6. So we multiply this by 2. And then this is 6. We multiply this by 3. So then we get negative 2 square root of 6 plus 9 square root of 6 all over 6. Now, because of the same radical sign, same number under the radical sign, we can combine the numbers outside. So we simply get 7 square root of 6 over 6 is our answer. Okay, so pretty simple. Now let's just make it a little more complicated. And let's take 3 square root of 2 over 7 minus 5 square root of 7 over 2 plus 3 square root of 56. So the first thing we do is we want to separate the numerator and the denominator. Or we have a theorem that says that 5 square root of 7 over square root of 2 plus 3 square root of 56 over 1. And we have to remember that this is still square root of 2. Just because we separate it, we don't take it out. Alright, so now we want to rationalize the denominators. So we get 3 square root of 14 over 7 minus 5 square root of 14 over 2 plus 3 square root of 56 over 1. We got to get a common denominator, which is 14. So I'm going to multiply this times 2 and this times 7 and this times 14. And then I get all over 14, right? 14. And I get 6 square root of 14 minus 35 square root of 14 plus, that's 12, 42 square root of 56. Okay, all over 14. You can't see this one, but it's all over 14. Now, can we take anything out? Isn't that the same? 56 is factored to 7 times 8, which is 2 times 2 times 2. So we could take a 2 out, and we'd be left with 14. So we take this 2 out of here. So I'm going to rewrite this to say 6 square root of 14 minus 35 square root of 14. If I take a 2 out, I have to multiply times that 48, plus 84 square root of 14, because that's what's left, all over 14. So now I have like radical signs, and I can combine them. So I have a 6 minus 35 plus 84. This becomes 90. This becomes 55 square root of 14 over 14. Positive. And that's your answer. Okay? So we've done these. They just making it a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to look at this and see if you can take out anything. When you have a square root of a big number like 56, yes, you can, because that's the same thing as saying 7 times 2 times 2 times 2 can take out a 2, which leaves me square root of 14, but you have to multiply that 2 whatever you have outside of that radical sign. Okay, so let's move on. We mentioned this in class when we have the square root of 3 square root of 3. So what we can do is we start from the inside. This, and write this as 3 to the 1/2 power times 3, and it's all raised to the 1/2 power. And this is an implied 1. Then we can use our power raised to our exponent, power raised to a power rule for exponents. Or, yes, so how do we do that? We take this times this, so it's 3 to the 1/2 times 3, and 1/2 times 1/2 is simply 1/4. Then we can use our product rule for exponents, which says you have the same base, you add the exponents. So it's simply, how do you add fractions? You've got to get a common denominator, which is 3/4. So this equals to 3 and 3/4. Or we can do the 4th root of 3 cubed. 4th root of 27. All three of these answers are acceptable at this point. Let's look at another one. So you start from the inside and work your way outside, and then you use your exponent rules, and that's one of the reasons why we learn them. So let's look at this one. We have the cube root of 3, of 3 square root of 3. So we start on the inside, and this is 3 to the 1/2 power times 3, and it's all raised to the 1/3 power. Then you simply use your power raised to the power rule for exponents. 3 to the 1/3 times 3 to the 1/6. Then you use your product rule for exponents, which says you have the same base, and then you've got 1/3 plus 1/6, which you've got to get common denominator, which equals 3/6, or 1/2. So this is 3 to the 1/2, or simply the square root of 3. And both those answers are exactly the same. Okay, so let's look at another one. A little bit more complicated. Not really, but you might think so. X cubed y squared cube root of xy. Now, these aren't under this is not under this, so that implies multiplication. I can say x cubed y squared raised to the 1/2 power times xy raised to the 1/3 power. Then I can use my exponent rules raised to or power rule raised to another power for exponents, and it says 3 times 1/2, so x to the 3/2 times y to the 2/2, or 2 over 2 is equivalent to 1, isn't it? So I can simply do 1. Then you've got times x to the 1/3 times y to the 1/3. Then I can use my product rule for exponents and combine like bases. So this is x 3/2 time plus 1/3. So I have to get a common denominator, which is x to the 11/6 times y to the 1/3. And you can leave it just like that. Oh, sorry, you have to add these. So 1 plus 1/3 is 1 1/3, or 4/3. Y to the 4/3, excuse me. Okay. So let's do another one. Cube root of x to the 5th y cubed times the 4th root of x y to the 5th. Well, then you take this x to the 5th y cubed raised to the 1/3 power, x y to the 5th raised to the 1/4 power. Then you just multiply your exponents. X to the 5/3 times y to the 3 over 3 times x to the 1/4 times y to the 5/4. Well, then you simply add like bases, and you add the exponents, so 5/3 plus 1/4, and you can't forget your rules for adding fractions. So this becomes x to the 23rd over 12, and this becomes y, so you have 3/3 plus 5/4, which is 12 is your denominator, yes, You add those, that's 17, 27. So it's 27 over 12, which can be reduced to divide by 3 is 9/4. And you still simplify them. So your answer basically is x to the 23rd 12 times y to the 9/4. And that's all it is. You're just simply breaking it down, and you start from the inside. Now, if it's not inside the radical like these were, and they're next to each other, that implies multiplication. Just like this implies 3 times the square root of 6. Or, which is, you take a 3 out, 3 times 3. Okay, same thing with radical signs or exponents. Alright, that is it for this lesson.